Hey Trombone fam, I wanted to take the time to make a video for you all to talk about some things that we should be doing during this time of technological learning. Actually, you should always do these things. And what are they? I'm glad you asked. These are things that I do with my 5th and 6th graders every single day, and we do some of it in class. We just don't really get to focus on why we do it or every day me pointing out, hey, this is what you need to do to continue to improve as a player. So, we're going to talk about literally the same things that I posted in my 5th and 6th grader video, but I'm going to put it in a little bit more understandable and relatable terms to where you are, because I know you don't want to go back to step one. So this video is for all of my 7th through 12th grade trombones, and I want to make sure that we're talking about the basics that I didn't get to tell you when you were young musicians as a brass player to a brass player. So the things that we're going to work on are air, embouchure, and mouthpiece. The second thing are scales. The third thing is dynamics. The fourth thing is listening and intonation. And then the fifth thing is actually going to be a little bit of fun stuff. I hesitate to say fun stuff, but I did. All right, so first of all, air, embouchure, and mouthpiece work, okay? Every day I see my young musicians, I have them start on their mouthpiece. The very first thing that they do every single day, and the very first thing that you should do every single day, is focus on having good posture and taking a big breath, then working on your embouchure and your mouthpiece, okay? So let's start with good posture. We want to stand up nice and tall. We don't want to be tight. We want to be nice and relaxed, but we don't want to be slouched over, okay? We don't want that. We want to be standing up as tall as possible. Just like when we sit down, we're not slouching on the back of the chair. We're at the front of the chair, and we have a straight back. We're on our butt bones, so we can feel that we have a straight back. Second thing, air, okay? Where do our lungs actually start? Here? Here, here, here. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But what I can tell you is that when I breathe, I'm filling up from the bottom of my lungs to the top of the lungs. And that's actually how your diaphragm works. It pulls up on a muscle that helps you fill your air or lungs with air. So when I breathe, you're going to see my stomach go out, and then things up here start to expand. And that's because I'm filling up all the way, okay? So here it is. There's 2 points of that breath, lower, and it expands upper. And now my upper chest, or my chest and my upper lungs don't expand as much, but they do broaden my entire upper body, okay? So again, it's, all right, I am filling up the max amount possible, all right? After that, we make sure that we have a good embouchure. Corners are firm, cheeks are in, chin is flat, my lips are wet. My lips are tight to my gums, okay? My gums right in here. And my teeth are in line, but separated a little bit, okay? So, embouchure. If it's good, if your breath is good, then mouthpiece work is something that you can work on, okay? I do these with my beginners every single day, all right? So, first thing I do is just say, hey, let's get a buzz. That whole time I'm focusing on my embouchure. It's nothing that I have to think about. I don't have to read music and interpret it. I'm just doing a buzz. Second part, I want them to make a high-pitched buzz, and we talk about how do we do that. We firm up the corners, we pull them back just a tiny bit, and we direct our air string down so it hits that cup and it shoots the air into a spiral and produces a higher-pitched buzz, okay? So here's a regular buzz again. Now I'm going to pull everything back, and you're going to see and hear that it's a bit higher pitched buzz. You can see that, okay? Now lower, everything comes forward a little bit. I still don't puff my cheeks or anything like that. I'm still making sure that my embouchure is nice and firm around the edges, okay? For those of you who have a hard time mouthpiece buzzing, cover the hole halfway with your pinky. It gives a little bit of resistance, okay? Then I do normal buzz, high-pitched buzz, low-pitched buzz, and then I go from high to low. Then I go from low to high. right, then I go high to low to high. Low to high to low. And then I do what's called a big fat siren. I start off as low as possible. I shoot up as high as I can, and I take my time coming down, kind of like this. All right. If I wanted to, I would do that twice in a row so it actually sounded like a siren. But that's the gist of the mouthpiece work that I do. If you do each of those normal, high pitch, low pitch, high to low to high, or high to low to high, high to low to high, low to high to low, and a siren, all 8 of those 3 times, that's a great start to your warm-up. And a lot of you have talked about wanting to play higher. Well, the higher you can buzz, the higher you can play. Same thing, the lower you can buzz, the lower you can play, okay? So when you go through these buzzes, if you're practicing a high-pitched buzz 3 times in a row, try and expand your range. See if you can make that buzz higher each of the 3 times. Say the first time you get this. Second time, try and get this. Third time, try and expand it, because you really don't know what your lips are capable of until you test them, okay? Some of you might be thinking, I can't do this. Well, you can't do it yet, or I can't hit that note. How about I haven't hit that note yet, or I haven't tried to hit that note / worked on it. If you haven't tried, then how do you know, okay? You got to believe in yourself, and there's some fundamental stuff that we have to do. So, air, embouchure, mouthpiece. Boom, all right? Let's talk about scales. So in 7th grade, you should know your 5 major scales: C major, F major, B flat major, E flat major, A flat major. Those are your 5 major scales, and you should know how to play a chromatic scale, okay? You should know 6 scales by the time you're in 7th grade. By the time you're in 9th grade, you should have learned D flat major scale. You should be looking at G major scale. I know I haven't really talked about G major, but we're catching up to where we need to be. So, it's realistically not a lot, but if you memorize them, it's going to help. How many times have you guys had melody in your life? Not a lot. I know that. I'm a trombone player. I know the life of playing a bunch of whole notes. Bum, bum, bum. But you never get the melody. Well, you're going to start getting melodies more and more. High school trombones got that in marching band. 7th grade trombones and 8th grade trombones got that throughout concert band. We have to continue to work on our embouchure so we can really pick out some literature that gives you guys the reins, allows you to play that melody, because I can tell you as a trombone player, nothing feels better than blasting out a solid melody, okay? So how do we prepare for that in the meantime? Shred your scales. Shred your scales, shred your arpeggios, shred your scales and thirds, okay? A lot of you got a warm-up packet from me this year, and you were like, what do I do? Well, let's start off slow. And you guys learned your B-flat major scale, letter L, in your warm-ups. Okay, now I have that memorized. I have all of my scales memorized. That's just what a responsible musician does. And remember, we're only really talking major scales right now. There are also minor scales, and then there's different modes. There's a whole lot of stuff. So, what can you do to become a better player with your scales? Well, one, you can build up some speed. Okay, and you can mess around with them a little bit more. All right, so I'm just going to play a B-flat major scale. Keep it easy so I can demonstrate, and then it's up to you to do this on the other scales that you personally know. And then once you can play it that fast, try and bump it up a little bit more. Again. Of course, I have a trigger, so it's a little bit easier to play my C instead of going out to 6th position. Now, if you're able to do that with all your scales, your arpeggios, and your scale and thirds, then you're going to become a beast of a player. Once you get a good speed built up that you like, time to start working on your articulations. We have our legato articulation. We have our staccato. Marcato, which is like an accent and staccato had a love baby. Accent. And then we have tons of other ones, but I'll save you guys that time. So I can work on my dynamics this way too. I crescendo that entire time. I did one piano. So there's so much that you can do. I think a lot of us get caught up in, I need to play what's written on the music. No, you need to have a vast knowledge of music. And once you explore music a little bit deeper, you're going to start to see that you know a lot more than you thought you knew. So my next thing that I want to talk to you about is dynamics. Okay, so when we do our dynamics, you can do a couple of different things. You can do long tones, you can do scales, you can practice anything in your music that you know of in your method book, in maybe your mom bought you a solo book from Frozen for Christmas. I don't know. I have one. But you can practice other things at different dynamics. Again, even if it's written at forte, you can practice it at piano. So I don't have any other music in front of me. I actually have nothing in front of me. So I'm going to do this with my scales, okay? So I'm going to crescendo through one, or I just did that, so I'm going to decrescendo through one now. That wasn't great. I know I can work on it, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to work on playing different dynamics. All that time, my embouchure was what it needed to be. I had a big breath. I'm working on making good contact. And now I'm also working on dynamics. I just worked on like 5 things at once. What? No way. Okay, so what else can I do? You can do long tones. Those are just holding out pitches. Start in the middle of your range. For me, that's like B flat on top of the staff. And as you do this, I would do it with a tuner. I have my phone tuner, which I'm going to pull up right now because I should already have this open. And I'm going to work on intonation as I do this. Okay? It's going to be a little difficult for you guys to see my tuner, but watch what happens. I started a little bit sharp. It's because I did not tune, by the way. Whoops. And as I got louder, it's a very typical thing for me to get sharper when I get louder. And it's not just me, it's every trombone player, every brass player, every woodwind player. That's what we do, okay? As we push more air, we start to scrunch down our embouchures and the pitch starts to go up. Well, another thing we can do is we can go the opposite way. When we get quieter, it tends to go flat because you're not using enough air to support. So let's see how it looks. And you could see that waver when I actually was going to the quieter end of that. And I heard it personally, which we'll talk about listening in a second. But dynamics, super important. Everybody loves to have a big brassy sound, okay? You want to make sure that you never get to the point of no return, as I like to call it, okay? You never want to sound so brassy that it just doesn't sound like a good trombone player. Only play as loud as beautiful allows you to, okay? So, I'm going to play a scale. I'm going to play too loud. Too much. My embouchure wasn't right. It just did not work out, okay? So, let's figure out what the healthiest loud sound I can make. That was here. I'm going to try and push it a little bit and see if I get sounding nasty. Yeah, I don't really like that. That's a little too brassy. That's a little too marching band for me, which you guys will all understand if you're in ninth grade or above. And if you don't, then you'll get that when you get into ninth grade, okay? So I'm going to push that envelope just a little bit, and I'm going to practice my scale at the loudest sound. So me, that's my fortissimo. I feel really good about that. How can I improve my fortissimo? Practice playing fortissimo, and that dynamic will it'll get louder as you develop your embouchure a little bit more. So, what's the next thing I want to talk about? Last thing, actually, is listening and intonation. Okay, you have to figure out what on your instrument is actually in tune. Right? I did a low brass intonation video that hopefully all of you watched. And I'm going to show you that right now. So here's my high B flat. It's a little flat, so I'm going to push in. All right, there we go. So I'm going to play D above it, which should be sharp. Or excuse me, it should be flat. Now I'm going to play my F, which should be sharp. I don't know, maybe I'm a little off today. But if you get to know your instrument and you get to understand, okay, my high F needs to be here. Should unlock my slide. If I know my high F needs to be here to be in tune, that means when I have a high F in my music, I can instantly go to where I know it's in tune, and then I can listen to the people around me. Because listening is in 3 levels: yourself, your section, and your ensemble. You have to listen to everybody that you possibly can at once to make sure that you are blending within the ensemble. If you can't hear your neighbor, it's either they're being way too quiet or you're being way too loud. So you have to listen to be a good part of any ensemble. If you know intonation tendencies of your instrument, then you are easily better off than the person who just picks up the trombone and plays whenever they want. You have to know your instrument, okay? So if you want, you can Google just, hey, drone of a B flat or concert B flat drone. And if you do that, you will literally hear an instrument just play a B flat. B flat. And once you do that, you can tune all of your notes to that B flat and you can start to listen to it, okay? So what I would do is I would Google and just try it. Google B flat drone, and the one that I found it comes up right away is cello drone of B flat, and it's a cello just playing a B flat, and it's like for 8 minutes. So it lasts quite a long time. You don't need to use all 8 minutes, but something to get used to. Play your B flat major scale in half notes going up and listen to that B flat and see what it's like to play with a constant pitch that is not changing, okay? So, final thing. I mentioned that we were going to do some fun things, and what I'm trying to tell you is you don't need me to do fun things. You don't, okay? Google some music, see what you can find out there for free melodies. I have a 5th grader who came in the other day and they were playing Dance Monkey by, I don't know who that's by, frankly. But they just found the sheet music and they started playing it. And then I found out that not all the sheet music was there and they figured out half of it by ear. A 5th grader. Okay? So you, as young musicians, but older musicians within our school, you guys can do that too. Just because I don't hand you the music to Dance Monkeys or whatever, that's just my example, but just because I don't hand you the music doesn't mean that you aren't going to be able to look up other melodies and figure things out. So have fun, work on these basic concepts, and can't wait to see you all, okay? Happy tromboning.